What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Grindline Podcast. You're listening to episode 210. I'm your host, Greg. I'm here tonight with Ryan and Tyler. Actually, news happened like before we recorded, which is generally very rare. Normally, we get all the way through and then something happens.
Thanks, Lou.
Yeah, thanks, Lou, for making our night and for making us not make that trade. But I want to get how you guys are doing tonight. We are going to be doing player tier ranking. Rather than grades, because if we do individual grades for everyone, it takes forever. So we're going to kind of go by tiers. But Ryan, how are you?
Tired.
So same. Thank you.
Yeah, same. No, I'm good. Basement got started today. So that, I guess on the opposite end, that's where I'm wired. So we're going to have a basement in the next month. That'll be pretty much finished. Tyler, that's excitement for you because you'll have your own little place to sleep and shower and everything. So
Tyler just going to end up moving in with you.
Probably.
Tyler can be, Tyler can be free labor, man. Free babysitter.
Save a lot of money.
Like I said, I was close to the microphone, kind of rubbing my hands together because, I'm very excited to hear that my basement is getting ready to be built.
My basement.
You're going to have a 77-inch LG down there.
Ooh, wow. Ryan's going to be moving down there soon.
Damn right.
To get away from everybody.
Tyler, how are you?
I am fantastic. Got back from the gym and now I'm ready to talk some hockey. I saw it right as that news dropped. I was in the middle of I think I was doing curls and I looked down at my watch and the Elliot Friedman tweet. So that was interesting. And I'm sure we'll talk more about it.
Oh, we will talk more about it. Actually, that's what we'll cover first because it's news that was on the top of everyone's radar. We were waiting for things to happen. And I'm actually really glad that Yzerman didn't make this deal after looking at it. So Vancouver Canucks general manager Patrick Alvin, I think, is the one who first announced it, that the team had acquired forward Anthony Bolivier, center Atu Ratu, and a protected 2023 first-round draft pick, which is top 12 protected from the New York Islanders in exchange for Bo
this
Horvat.
Year, right? Right.
Yeah.
Next year, it's anything.
Yeah, they can push it a year. If they finish in the top 12 in draft, then they can push it out to next year. But they did get Bo Horvat, and that is a trade that if I was Yzerman, I would not make. That's basically like saying, give us one of your high prospects, because Ratu did play games for the Islanders, but he's one of their top prospects in their system. And then it's give me, I guess, I don't know what your equivalent for Bavilier would be. Maybe you're going to give him a Michael Rasmussen, and you're going to give them your first. And I think the first is what would break it for Yzerman. He had said previously that he's not trading picks. And Lou says they want to extend Horvat. It doesn't look like they have the money. It'd be kind of hard for them to make the money unless they off some cap. So Horvat may actually end up being a UFA in the offseason again, which Detroit could go after. But I mean, if I'm in Yzerman's position, especially with the reports that came out recently that Yzerman is unpleased with some of the additions that he made in the offseason, I'm not really in the position to give up more to try and get a Bo Horvat. So what do you guys think of the trade?
The other thing that the Islanders could do if, say they fall out of it or something and they can't sign Horvat, or like he doesn't want to sign there. I wonder if they could flip him again. I know it's not something that you see very often, but I mean, it's something that could certainly be on the table if they do start to fall out of it.
People talked about that. They said, someone jokingly said, so in a month, when the Islanders are way out of the playoffs, they can just flip Horvat again. Now, whatever team he goes to, he will not be eligible for playoffs. Like if he goes to a playoff team, he won't be eligible for playoffs because it'll be past the deadline at that point. And any player traded past the trade deadline cannot play in the playoffs.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking they trade him before the deadline.
You think they're going to trade? They could trade him within the next month
if they fall out of it. So what if they went on like a 10-game losing streak?
Well, currently they are sitting 3 points behind the Penguins.
Okay, so say that 3 turns into 12 or 13.
2 points behind the Penguins. Sorry, it could. I mean, if they went on a bender and just like lost 6 in a row, I mean, that,
and you know what?
Could happen.
They could, because they don't score very many goals. So it's certainly a possibility. I guess Horvat does help that, though.
He does.
Ideally.
And that's the thing. They didn't really give up any of their threats to get Horvat. That's the thing. The Islanders did this move to say, hey, we need scoring. we're going to go out and get scoring because their goaltending is great and their defense is respectable. And they go out and get scoring to hopefully help them bump up past the Penguins. They're 3 points behind the Caps, 2 points behind the Penguins. So if they bump that up, they're not catching the Rangers at 62 points, I don't think, but they're trying to improve their chances of getting into that wild card spot. Now, if you look at it, the Panthers are at 54 points, the Sabres are at 56, and the Red Wings are at 50. So we're all in that kind of race together. But I mean, like you said, if we start doing good, the Panthers continue doing well, the Sabres do well. And if the Islanders with Bo Horvat shit the bed, sure, that trade could happen before the deadline. And it'd be funny. If anything, that'd be comedy, because maybe Lou tries at that point to recoup his assets that he just got rid of. I mean, for me, it looks like off the top, looks like Vancouver won the trade, because I don't see how the Islanders extend Horvat for the money he's going to want. Plus, they gave up potentially their first, say, the funniest thing would be if they finished like 13th in the draft order and they miss the playoffs and lose their draft pick. It's a move, like I said, a move I would not have made. And I'm glad Yzerman didn't pull the trigger. If he was in it, I'm glad he didn't pull the trigger at that price.
I mean, I will say, if he tries to trade him off again, they definitely have a little bit of wiggle room there, because what did you say before this, that Vancouver retained 25% of the salary?
Yeah, they retained 25% of his salary for this season.
So right there, what's that busted down to? Is it 5?
It's like $1.25 million or something. So he's at under 5 million.
So yeah, he's at roughly 4.75 right now. No,
around. It's under 5.
4.5. He's around 4.5 right now. So now the Islanders can double that up and retain 50% of that for the remainder of the year. So you're pushing him down closer to 2.5 million right now for retained salary going to the another team that's looking for a playoff spot.
Boston that's is where salivating.
Oh yeah, totally. Like this could still work out in where we see Lou somehow get another first round pick back to recoup what he got rid of, and which even works out. That could even work out great, because if that's a top 12 pick that they get by shitting the bed somehow, then he somehow manages to flip Horvat again for another first. Now you got 2 first round picks potentially this season.
So you think like Lou's, this is all like same thing we do with Yzerman, Lou Lamoriello playing 4D chess over here, trying to stack up picks, knowing that he's not going to make playoffs.
But that's one way to potentially look at it, though.
I mean, we were even looking before we started recording. The Islanders are so old. Like half their team is using walkers currently.
Defense, they're young, arguably.
Sure. Well, sure.
Under 30. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. So you've got 2 guys at 28, 2 at 23, 1 at 25, 1 at 26, 1 at 30 on defense. You only have 1, 2, 3 players under 30 years old at forward currently. Besides
that are
Wallstrom.
Active.
Yeah, Wallstrom's on IR. And so is Hudson Fashing. But that's it. Like, you've got 32, 31, 33, 30, 31, 31, 33, and they're all making a lot of money.
That's a narrow window.
And they're all, their window is like, I mean, it's the crack I put in my window to let a slight breeze in when it's raining. That is the window that the Islanders currently have right now. Or Ryan, for Star Wars terms, you're running toward a door and it is slowly closing.
Very Raiders of the Last Ark-esque.
Yeah, what's going to happen, though, I think, is the door is going to close and they're going to be stuck on the wrong side of it. Because I mean, like you said, it's totally possible the Islanders missed the playoffs.
Said last, I meant lost on the West. Said last.
Oh,
I was looking at something and said last. Yeah, I told you I'm tired.
It feels like the Islanders are one of those teams, though. Like, if they could just get hot, they do have a good enough goalie where they could, make a pretty strong run in the playoffs if they do get there. You know what I mean? Especially considering the way they play hockey. They're fucking.
They beat Detroit recently, only allowing 2 goals. So that tells you
so. I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, like I said, they gave up a lot, I feel like, but it could work out for them. You know what I mean? Like, they could end up having their second line center for the future if they can figure out the cap and maneuver it. I mean, it sounds crazy, but you could still trade a Brock Nelson, or you could trade, a Pajot or someone like that. I don't know. The Pajot one looks worse and worse every year, it seems like.
But Brock Nelson's 31. He's making $6 million for 2 more seasons.
Yeah, and that's the crazy. There are some really bad contracts here. I mean, make no mistake.
Tyler,
Horvat's next one's going to be what, 9.5?
No. I mean, Horvat might make an 8 by 7.
8. Okay.
So, if you're looking at,
it can still be an 8-year deal though with the Islanders, right? Because he got traded there.
I
think it can.
I think it has to be the last team that signed you.
It's going to be 7.
Yep, it'd be a 7-year deal.
Oh, so it would be 7.
Yeah.
So they don't have. I thought
you would have had to have done
They would have had to have done a sign and trade.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
So then they have no leverage basically. So they can give a 7-year deal just like everybody else.
Yeah. So, and you talk about centers. So here's the center depth currently playing for the Islanders. You've got Matt Barzal, you've got Anders Lee, you've got Brock Nelson, you've got Bo Horvat, you got JG Padre, you got Casey Cizikas. They're all centers. So what you got like 6 centers and you've got 4 center positions, and these are all active roster players. I'm not sure. I don't know where they put Bo unless they move someone to a wing. And it's a confusing move for me for the Islanders because of the position they're in. And I mean, for me right now, it's a win for the Canucks because they got a 1st-round pick on a guy there was no chance they were going to sign. So what I want to do now, though, is move into our player ranking. We're at the midpoint of the season. The Red Wings don't play. It is like it's really sad times for the hockey community because it's All-Star break. And instead of being happy about All-Star break, because as we have said several times on the show, it sucks. The All-Star game is garbage. The skills comp is slightly entertaining. And this is the time where all the stars get injured so that they don't have to go to the All-Star break.
At least the jerseys are beautiful.
Sure, the jerseys are, upon introspection with myself, the jerseys are good as long as you're not getting the mostly white one. I like the mostly black one, which would be my Dylan Larkin jersey I'm probably going to get. But the way we're going to do it this episode, this year, in previous years, we've gone grade by player, and it took a really long time. So what we're going to do this year is we are going to put them in tiers. I have my top tier, which are A's and high B's, mid tier, which is C's and B's, and then low tier, which is low C to failing grade. So these are the guys that are really good, been okay, and then have been bad, basically. And I'll give you kind of my rundown. Then we'll get your guys' thoughts on it, and we'll go back and forth. But first, we're going to stop at top tier, and then halfway through, we'll stop for a commercial break. So top tier. And I think I'm pretty in the same camp as most other people when I say Dylan Larkin, top tier. Mo Sider.
Is this what are we talking? Like, what's our top tier A/B range?
High B and A. So like B plus and A. Larkin.
I didn't do pluses. I just did single letters.
Well, you're not an overachiever, Ryan, and that's okay. But you can fit.
I don't feel like thinking that hard about it because it's been season.
You can fit your person. You can fit your people into my system. So my top tier is Dylan Larkin, Mo Sider, Lucas Raymond, Dominic Kubalik, Michael Rasmussen, Philip Hronik, Oli Mata, Jake Wallman, and Jonathan Berggren. Those are my top tier players right now on this team. Larkin, for obvious reasons, he's been the best player on the team all year. Mo Sider picked it up after he was relieved of Ben Sherratt and has been fantastic. Lucas Raymond also picked it up and has been playing a lot better for the better part of the season now. Kubalik, even though he's cooled off a bit, has still been very effective. Michael Rasmussen, what a dude, man. Like, he's that guy right now and just been playing phenomenal hockey after being moved to the wing. And for a guy in Newsy who doesn't like to mention players by name, has been like 3 games in a row where he's mentioned Michael Rasmussen by name. Philip Hronik, who after having a terrible year last year has been fantastic this season. Oli Mata helped him do that. Oli Mata has also had a better half a year this year than he had all year last year. Jake Wallman, I am afraid he's going to make a lot of money. That's my fear currently. And Berggren has come in and done everything you've asked of him. But that's my top tier players right now. And I kind of want to bounce that off you guys and see if there's anyone you maybe had in there that I didn't, or someone you didn't have in there that I did? And we're going to start with Ryan.
I think we had pretty much the same list. I mean, my top tier arguably is A's and B's. And I think, let's see, I had Hronik, Perron, Berggren, Larkin, Kubalik, Raymond, Raz, Sider, Mata, Wallman. I think that's almost exactly what you said. I don't think I was missing anybody there.
Yeah, the only person I did not have in my top tier was Perron.
Perron I did. And mainly because of what he has done in terms of power play, more so early, but he's been consistently one of those guys that you see out there doing things on the ice, typically well. So I had him as, he was kind of a surprise to me. I know he's got 30 points over 48 games. That's nothing like crazy, but he's got 14 goals, which is tied for second on the team, I do believe. So in that sense, to me, that elevates him a little bit and puts him in my top tier for the season. But I mean, the rest, you pretty much nailed it. I think Berggren exceeded expectations, even though I think we all assumed he'd be awesome. Razzie nailed it on the head. He's been probably easily the most improved player coming into this season. Hronik kind of picked up where he left off last season. Larkin is Larkin. Kubalik, I don't think we expected the goal surge that he had early on. It sucks that he's kind of slowed down as much that we're seeing 34 points through 48 games, but that's still, I think, a win in terms of the signing there. Raymond and Mo, they started out slow, but they've picked it up. Mata, you mentioned how he started hot as well with Hronik, which I would love them to get back together, because I feel like just bury Sherratt on your third line and let whoever else is on that pairing with him equally suffer. Yeah, it can't be any worse than what we're already seeing. So, and then Wallman, I've got him up there just because of what his skating helps elevate Mo Sider to a different level. And they've just been a huge compliment to each other. I don't have the fancy stats up. I know we've talked about them before, but when those two are together, good things happen. So that's all we can ask for.
Wallman is also such an offensive presence. Like he is thing about him, he's like the problem. He's as consistently a offensive threat as almost any forward on the team, which is really saying something. And I think, again, and we had talked about previously, that's the Mo Sider effect. He knows Mo Sider is defensive, so he can jump into the rush, he can shoot the puck, and he shoots at any opportunity he gets, which is what literally everyone on the team should be doing. Shoot the puck. Whenever you get the puck, shoot it. So I think that's the big thing with Wallman is he's playing so above his value right now because his contract is so cheap. And I just,
what was Dom's model showing him at, like 7?
Yeah, like he's worth like an $8 million contract with the way he's producing right now.
He's not going to get that though.
No, he won't get that. But I could see Mata getting a $4 million contract.
Is he getting a Hronik contract?
Or more? Yeah, I mean, around Hronik. Hronik had a little bit more backup to his game. Like he had previous experience when he signed that contract. But I could see Wallman getting a $4.5 million contract because that's how good he's been.
The person that I included in my top tier compared to what you guys had, I had who you guys had, but then I had Ville Husso in there as well. Just because, I mean, there's been obviously some games this season where the Wings don't win if it's not for Husso. I mean, he's got 17 wins. I know his goals against average and his save percentage don't look fantastic, but I mean, he's facing a lot of shots, and some nights, obviously, they kind of get lit up. Out of those 11 games, I didn't look exactly, but I can tell you that there's 2 or 3 games in there that are absolute blowouts. So, and they're not all Husso's fault, obviously. I'll kind of go back and forth with Perron. That was the one guy I was kind of like, well, you know, should he be in the top tier? The other guy that I kind of debated putting in the top tier too, and his game has gotten much better, I feel like, is Joe Veleno. I mean, he just seems to, every time he's out there, I know most players give 110%, but it feels like he's like things are starting to come together for him. Like everything's starting to feel like it looks in sync. I know he's not playing, you know, crazy minutes or anything like that, but he's another guy that I kind of debated whether putting in that top tier or not, but I ended up not.
Yeah, I had Husso higher, but I think since we talked to Daniela is where things have kind of fallen off the wagon for him a little bit, it seemed like. And that's where I just kind of brought him back down to the middle of the road, just because you mentioned that the goals against and save percentage aren't that great. They're not. I was looking at Max's article today. He had gone from like a 918 to like a 90, whatever it is now, 901. So that is quite the drop. And that was going from game 20 to game 34. So that's where, for me, that dropped him back down to the middle tier, where, I mean, if he would have kept that same level, if you will, I would have bought into it. But I mean, what stood out to me in the comment from, I'm trying not to go too deep into the middle tier here, so I apologize, but you have Lalone even mentioning that I do think we've rolled out a tired Ville Husso some games, and he has not been his sharpest. So to me, it's a double-edged sword. Like, he could have been there, but then you think about those things that might have come into play, and it's obvious. So that's what brought him down for me. So, but I digress.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat with Husso, and he made my mid tier, and it's about the same thing. Like, you're right, there are games that we're not in it without Ville Husso, but there are also games where Ville Husso is not fantastic, and it goes back and forth. I mean, not as bad as Ned was, but I had him in my mid tier. And if we're going to go back to Perron, the only reason, if intangibles were counted, and what Perron has brought to this team in terms of leadership and veteran presence, I would definitely bop him up into top tier. But the reason I moved him down into mid, and it's not that he's an average player right now on the team, I'd give him a solid B. But in the past 15 games, he has 3 points, and he's averaging 16 minutes and 22 seconds of ice time. And 15 games, that's a third of the season so far. So, or a little under a third of the season. So if he picked it up, and like you said, he's a good power play presence, and it's hard not to mention the other factors that he's brought to the team, like the veteran presence and like the leadership in the room. And it's been mentioned by coaching staff. It's been mentioned by Newsy. It's been mentioned by other players that that's just what he does, because he comes from a winning culture. He's won before. He knows what it takes. And I'd bop him up there, but mid tier is where I put him, because for me, he's a solid B. And if we move on to my mid tier, I've got Andrew Kopp, because Andrew Kopp to me has brought it up since recovering from his injury, and he's actually been very, very effective recently. I've got Perron. I put Oscar Sundqvist in my mid tier. I think he is very underappreciated for what he does for this team, and he's one of my guys that I think a lot of people underestimate. Oscar Sundqvist, Joe Veleno, Ville Husso, Robbie Fabry for his limited time, and Magnus Hellberg. That's my mid tier. These are like my C to C plus, C or C plus up to a solid B. That's my mid tier.
I agree with that mid tier. The only other guy I probably would have added to the mid tier is Ben Sherratt. No, I'm just kidding.
Big fuck you. My struggle was Pius Suter.
See, I have Suter there, and it just like, I know his numbers aren't fantastic. He's only got 12 points in 45 games, but he's playing third and fourth line minutes. You know, it's not like last year where he's playing a lot of top 6 minutes. He's not doing that as much anymore this year. And I mean, obviously the team is much better. So, but yeah, I mean, that's the only guy I kind of debated, and then I did end up putting him in. So I see him as more of a mid-tier kind of guy. I don't see him as a bottom tier.
Are we talking about
Pius Suter?
I have him in my bottom tier.
Yeah, he made my bottom only because if you look at last season in 82 games, he had 36 points. This season so far in 45 games, he has 12. He's a -7, but the thing with him is he's one of the better 5v5 possession guys on the team. He drives kind of the 5v5 play when he's on the ice, but he's not scoring as much as he did last season. So that's kind of what bumped Suter down for me. But yeah, I mean, Robbie Fabry, he's done basically all you could ask of him after coming back from a major injury. But there's not enough of there to say Robbie Fabry's a top tier right now. That's why he made my mid. Hellberg came in, and Hellberg's looked really good on a lot of nights. And then other nights he lets in 2 or 3 soft goals. But he's what you need from a backup goaltender, I guess. I already mentioned Kopp. And Perron, Kopp has done really all you could ask of him after coming back. He's on pace for a career year. And that's, great after having core muscle surgery and getting a slow start. Joe Veleno is my mid-tier because, Joe Veleno is, like you said, improving, and he's finding his confidence, and it's happening. And he may need to be bumped up in ice time a little bit to see what's going on. But also, I think Joe Veleno could be a trade target for some teams. So that Ryan, what's your mid-tier look like?
So for mine, I've got Hellberg and Husso. I mean, that's probably the safe and easy way out, but I already explained the Husso thing. Hellberg, we talked about several times over. Yzerman's had his eyes on him for a while. We saw that happen starting last season. And the fact that he brought him in and he's done, as you said, all you could have asked for in his couple of starts. I got Kopp in there, as you mentioned, because, he started slow. I think he's finally got his footing. He actually looks like he's skating hard and with speed out there at this point. Seems like he's healthy. I feel like he's been better on the puck where it's just not kind of rolling off him. He's been more aggressive. So I think he's a simple one here. I had Sundqvist in the middle tier.
Me too.
Could he have dropped? Maybe. I guess depends on who you talk to. But, he's gone back and forth. He's also been dealing with injuries. To me, he hasn't been great. He hasn't been bad. There's been some nights where I'm just like, why are you out there? But it is what it is. I got Veleno, Soderblom. I don't know if we were rating him, but I had him on the middle tier because of what he was able to do in 21 games. Robbie Fabry, again, he can't really judge him based on just a short season, but you can't be upset about what he's done. This one I struggle with. I did have Bert on the middle tier, but you could argue that he's been bottom tier. Again, when he's out there, you can still say that he is somewhat impactful, even though it's not showing up on the score sheet, which is actually hurting this team at this point. And then the last couple, I had Ned as a C, probably could be the bottom tier. I did have him on here. I had Zarnik and Vrana, but there really wasn't a point in having either of those guys listed. So that's where I'm at with that middle tier. Goaltending mid. We have mid goaltending. There we go.
Don't start using that, Ryan.
Mid. We've got
mid. Did I even use it right?
Yeah, you used it right.
Yeah, see, I'm learning.
Our goaltending is very mid. That's what's happening
Us
right now.
Old guys over here.
You're still in your 20s. Shut up.
I'm 28. Okay, I'm closer to 30 than I am 20. So
no, you're not. You're fine.
But so I guess that would put, and like you were saying, guys closer to lower tier. You would put Sonny closer to lower than to upper. You'd probably put.
Yep. Same with
Ned. Ned, though, so my low tier, and actually, let's do this. Let's take a break really quick before we move on to the low tier, because I think that is the one that we're going to have the most time lamenting on because of just how bad some people have been. So we're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor. We'll be right back. NBA fans, it's time to bring the hoops action to the palm of your hand with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. This week, new customers can bet $5 and win $200 in free bets instantly. Plus, for a limited time, all new and existing customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay every day. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app today, opt in, and place a same-game parlay on any NBA team, and if it doesn't hit, you'll get a free bet back. Download the app now and sign up with code THPN. New customers can bet $5 on the NBA and get $200 in free bets instantly. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA with code THPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. Void in Ohio. See show notes for details. This time of year, everyone's talking about making big changes, which is well and good, but most of the time pretty unrealistic. I've actually found the smallest changes to your routine can make the biggest impact. In the same way, you don't have to break the bank to make a big deal purchase. Even the smallest things can be part of a big change if something you use every day, like my Raycons. Raycon is a premium audio at the perfect price point so you can build great habits without breaking the bank. Whether you're looking for a pair of everyday earbuds, low latency gaming headphones, or a speaker with a battery that will last all night into your next party, Raycon's got you covered. And yep, Raycons start at half the price of other premium audio brands, so you don't even have to choose between products. You can get one of each or a pair and a spare and still pay less than what you would with some other guys. That way you can keep one pair in your bag, one pair in your bedroom, one pair in your car, and you're still paying less than other premium brands on the market. Even if you know you love your Raycons as much as I do, Raycon wants to make sure you feel great about your purchase. They offer buy now, pay later options, and every purchase has an easy and free return guarantee. Your Raycons have 3 customizable sound profiles for when you're watching movies, listening to music, or playing games. They get a long 8 hours of playtime for the everyday earbuds and 11 for the everyday speaker. And they are water and sweat resistant for those Michigan winters where you have to be out shoveling or snowblowing the driveway. So if you're ready to buy something small with a big impact, go to buyraycon.com/THPN today and get 15% off your Raycon order. That's buyraycon.com/THPN to score 15% off. buyraycon.com/THPN. And we're back. And we've got low tier. So my bottom tier players, these are ones that are going to be the C- to whatever you consider a failing grade. If you're in elementary school, it's an E. If you're in high school, it's an F, which I never understood in school why they did that. Why was one an E and one an F? It made no sense to me, but whatever. These are your failing grade, low to failing grade. And that is Tyler Bertuzzi for me. I put Pia Suter in here. I put Adam Ernie, Ben Sherratt, Gustav Lindstrom, Jordan Osterley, Robert Hagg, and Alex Nedeljkovic. I have 2 NAs. Philip Zadina has not played enough for me to give grade to. Neither is Jacob Vrana. Those are the 2 that I could not grade based on the amount of games they played. But that's my low tier. So Bertuzzi, like you said, Ryan, he ain't doing anything. That's the thing. Like, He's in and he's playing hockey and he's making some play. He had some good chances the other day. Some great chances in the 0-goal game against the Islanders. And it's been like that for the past few games. There's just been a few chances, but when he's away from Dylan Larkin or he's on the opposite side of the ice, nothing's happening. And he's going in and maybe trying to dig out pucks a little bit, but he's not scoring. He's not putting the puck in net. He's not getting assists. Like, there's no points. So Tyler Bertuzzi is in my low tier. Pia Suter, he could have went to my mid tier. He was one of my bounce back and forth kind of guys. I went because of the lack of points based on his performance last season. Sure, he may be driving play, but it's not resulting in anything for him. So Pia Suter's there. Adam Ernie, I think he's gone at the deadline. It's just he's been scratched several times. He had some offense to him this season. Nothing's happening. Ben Sherratt, God love you, anchor of a fucking contract right now. Gustav Lindstrom, again, after having a solid first half of the season last season, like, what has happened? What has happened?
Not recovered
to Gustav Lindstrom. Jordan Osterley's Jordan Osterley. I mean, he was never going to be a top tier player anyways. He, like I said, that's why if he scores on your team, you have to relocate. It's the Jordan Osterley effect. He plays all right with Olimata, but I fully attribute that to Olimata propping him up. Robert Hagg, if I never see his face again, it will be too soon. And then Alex Nedeljkovic, been stellar in Grand Rapids. Stellar in Grand Rapids.
Behind a struggling team.
100% shit the bed in Detroit. Like, we've said harder matchups. We've said harder schedule. The team, for some reason, plays like an AHL team in front of him, and an AHL team plays like an NHL team in front of him. And it's really weird, but Ned has been very good in Grand Rapids. Now, Newsy has said that we may see Ned again. There's a chance that he comes back up and plays games, and it could happen. But you need to get rid of a goalie in the offseason, and Ned is making more money. And as of right now, Ned's on my low tier. And it's not even a bounce between my low and high. Like, Ned for me is like a C- D, like a D+. Let's give Ned a D+, because there's effort there, but the rest of it's not great. So that's my low tier. I mean, like I said, the only bounce between low and mid I could have right now is Pia Suter, but the rest of them, I mean, if I wanted to be nice to Osterley, maybe, but Pia Suter is basically the only one I could bounce back and forth. What do you got, Ryan?
No, I basically you're nicer to Zadina than I was. I gave him a D. I put him down in there at the bottom tier. I gave Vrana the benefit of the doubt, and he had no grade. Matt Luff and Giovanni Smith all had NAs for me, just because of their minimal playing time. But Zadina being scratched at the start of the season, then coming in and not doing anything, is why I actually put him on that bottom tier for being disappointing. But the rest I had spot on. I know I said I had Ned in the middle tier, but again, that was teetering. And then the same with Bert. But you could argue, like you said, he's bottom tier. And we're talking about it in the Discord right now that Mo saying he's hoping Bert gets going. I think everyone's hoping he gets going, but you need Bert to get going. If you want to have success the remainder of this season, you need Tyler Bertuzzi scoring goals.
Or if you want to trade him.
Or if you want to trade him and get something huge in return. Like you need Burt to get going. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And if he doesn't, you trade him, and now you got Jake Vrana back in the lineup. So, but I mean, the rest of the guys that you mentioned, I really don't have much to argue against. I mean, Sherratt, we were excited because he was bringing a physical presence out there with Mo. But as time went on, that new pretty player that wore off a little bit quicker than I think we all expected it to be. Tyler, you were always on I hate Sherratt bus, so you get to gloat on this one a little bit. And
I'll take my victory lap in a little bit, but yeah, I said before that I didn't believe in Sherratt, and I'm being proven right every single night that I watch this clown skate around the ice. So, I mean,
he got a first round. Like, is he the equivalent of Kyle Quincy at this point? He got a first round pick, and you're just like, what did
he must have a
really
fucking good agent?
He must just have like that presence like throughout the NHL that just for some reason, and it's not an advanced stats for certain. But there's got to be like something that these GMs or somewhere around the league sees that
he's a good skating physical defenseman. That's about what you can probably throw down.
I wouldn't even call him that physical. There's games where he's invisible out there.
No, I get that, but when he does throw the body, you see it, and he can skate well, which opens himself up offensively a little bit. So that'd be the only thing you could argue, but he hasn't been good. So
no,
it doesn't matter.
I just want to say NHL players or soon to be NHL players, if you're listening, Craig Oster from Newport Sports Management, he is the agent you want. He has been Sherratt's agent, and holy shit, he's a fucking miracle worker. So Craig Oster, we're going to plug you because you've done some phenomenal things in your career, and we're just going to give you the plug. But go ahead, Tyler.
I mean, I agree with your guys' tier. I mean, it's unfair to put Zadina or Vrana down there.
I'll give Vrana the benefit. He played 2 games. Zadina still played 9.
Exactly. Yeah, 9 games. I guess
on top of being scratched for several.
That is true. So, I mean, I guess I could see the Zadina thing. Vrana, obviously, it gets an NA for me just because, I mean, he hasn't played. How many games has he actually played? 3? 2? Okay. So, not very many. So, I think the biggest thing is there's too many players on this bottom tier still, and too many people in the mid tier still. And this, if you talk about playoffs or you talk about, developing and getting better, you need to see more players be more consistent. And I think that's really the biggest thing that we talk about here in terms of the value of this whole list here. There's not enough players on that top tier.
See, I mean, Tyler, to your point, like not having enough guys up top. I mean, we just talked about a lot of guys being borderline mid to low tier. And you can't have that, especially for a team that, yes, we can argue is an improved team, but you look at the records this year to last year and you're like, oh, that's not really much difference. But I mean, they've allowed the plus minus and goal differential is a lot better. They're allowing less goals, but they're still getting outscored. But to that point, I was just over in the Discord. I mean, they're 5-6-2 in December, which we knew was going to be a difficult month. But there were games they could have won, and there were games that they just flat out looked bad. And then they followed that up last month in January, or this month, if it's the 30th, so last month, 5-7-1 in January. Not good enough. You can't be going into this point in the season struggle bussing, and they did. So, but again, it's to that point where, I mean, through all those games that weren't very good in December, was Ned's downfall. Now he's in Grand Rapids. Is he doing well? For the most part, but he's not here. He's not helping this team get better. And that was the expectation, that he would be a 1A, 1B complement to Ville Husso. And that ain't happening. We thought Sherratt would be more aggressive. He's fallen off the wagon. Suter, he's just kind of Ernie, we were cautiously optimistic, I think, for him to be more of an impact player. Middle 6 is your best case scenario.
Well, yeah, based on how he finished last season, you thought he might pick up the offense a bit.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's 14 points in 43 games for a guy getting 13, almost 14 minutes of ice time. It's not the best, but it's also not great. But again, he just hasn't been good. Jordan Osterley, more often than not good. Haig, bad. Lindstrom has been bad. Let's see. Who haven't I touched on?
Haig has been pathetic.
Who?
Robert Haig has been pathetic. Lindstrom
Yeah,
has been
I wasn't
pathetic
expecting
too.
that. That's where you really wish his Achilles wasn't, made of glass. But there's just too many guys that have just been and haven't elevated their game, like going all the way back to your point there, Tyler. So it's that's I think the frustrating part. And then Bert being unhealthy and then just having 5 points in 17 games, that has just been the ultimate stab in the back.
Yeah, when you've got 15 guys that make mid-tier and low-tier, and then not really any of them besides I had maybe Perron teetering up to that top, and the rest are still sitting at mid to low, that's why you're in the position you're in now. Like you're not making the playoffs, but you're going to improve over last season. We know you're going to do that because of who was brought in and what they've been able to do. I think we have actually some of the most productive team additions out of the entire NHL from the offseason. So you're going to teeter that way. You're going to teeter towards making the playoffs. Now, again, maybe Yzerman isn't super happy with some of the people. I know he's definitely not happy with Ben Sherratt, what Ben Sherratt has done, which, I mean, who would be? But you need some more of these guys to bump up into top tier. And maybe next season, like I said, there have been guys that have really done well or started to do better, like a Joe Veleno. Maybe next season, Joe Veleno can pop up into that top tier. Maybe Robbie Fabry can go up to that top tier. Maybe Perron and Kopp will solidify themselves in that top tier. And that's what we need going forward. Maybe Husso comes back lights out because maybe we put a better defense in front of him. So a lot of this leads up to the trade deadline. Like, what guys are going? Who is Yzerman going to bring in? Because now we missed out on Horvat. Maybe Yzerman goes after Timo Meier. Now, with what Horvat got on the return, if they want a first for Timo Meier, again, he's not going to bite at it. But they can't qualify.
Meier would be a guy that I would trade a first for.
Maybe. I mean, but it depends on where you think you're going to finish. And if Yzerman thinks he's going to finish with a top 10 pick, I'm not trading it. Maybe I top 10 protect it and move it to next season. But maybe you need, think
if it was protected, like the Islanders, they're doing top 12 protected, would you consider that to be a smart trade if it somehow bumped to next year?
I guess it depends on what else they want. So the thing is they're going to ask for another good player or a good prospect. They might ask you for Marco Kasper. They might ask you for Simon Edvinsson. That's a thing. They might ask you for William Wallander, and maybe you say, or an Albert Johansson. Maybe I say okay to an Albert Johansson and a protected first.
One of the defensive prospects, not Edvinsson, obviously, but one of the defensive prospects I would be okay with parting with, especially if it's not Johansson and, but not both of them. You would want to just give up one. That way you still have the other, Wallander or Johansson. And I guess as long as it's protected, because if it's not lottery protected, then I mean that's where it gets sticky, and that's where. But I mean, do you think that in this draft, and I know it's deep, but do you get a player of Timo Meier's caliber if you're top 10 in this draft? Because Timo Meier is a damn good player.
Yeah, but if you do, they're still 2-3 years away from making the team at that point, generally. So if you were to trade it, like Ryan, I think I'd be okay if you were to trade a protected first and one of the glut of defensive prospects and maybe a Philip Zadina or a roster player who's not going to have a huge impact if we take them off of the roster. And maybe that's where you get a Timo Meier. And because, again, the Sharks are not working from a position of strength because his qualifying offer is like $10.5 million and they don't have the money. They can try to bargain with him and say, hey, we'll sign you to an $8 million contract. But I'm not even sure they have the money to do that. So if you're looking at, maybe you go after a Timo, and again, this free agent class like blows. So I think you're looking at, unless a Pasternak makes it to free agency, which I don't see happening. And even if he does, he's going to get like $11 or $12 million, which is going to be insane. I mean, not insane because he's worth it, just insane because that's a lot of money.
No, insane. You're not giving a winger $11 or $12 million. That's insane.
Sure you are. I mean, he'll ask for it and he'll get it because look at the production.
It's kind of funny though how he always talked about, and I don't know, he hasn't really come out and really talked about it from what I've heard of people saying here. But I do know, and here's your Bruins minute for you. But
welcome to Bruins Corner with Tyler.
Right, basically. But no, from what I always remember, he had an interview with another podcast. It might have been Spit and Chicklets or something. And basically he said that like he doesn't play for the money and that, he took less to stay with the Bruins because they have a good team and blah, blah, blah.
Who's this?
Pasternak.
Sorry. Okay.
The last contract. I mean, if you look at their like history, they don't ever give anybody top dollar. It seems like they always get a player to take a hometown discount, whether it's Bergeron or Marchand or McAvoy or any of those guys. So I'm assuming that it'll still come in somewhere high, but I don't think it'll be 11. I think that's insane, to be honest. But I mean, if he gets to market, I mean, yeah, the someone will pay it because, he's a 35 goal scorer every year. Has he hit 40 yet in his career?
Ryan, you going to pay Pasta $11 million?
Absolutely. In a heartbeat.
With the Wings?
He had 48 goals in 1920 and he had 40 in 21-22.
Oh, there you go. So he is a 40 goal scorer.
He's had 35 goals or more 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And one of those years is this current season.
Everyone around here seems to bitch about him, how he floats around. Sometimes it doesn't play any defense.
Wouldn't care. Let him come to Detroit then. I would pay him that money. Like Panarin, if the Wings were in that window, I would have wanted Yzerman going all in on him. Pasternak is going to fit this window that we're looking at. If he goes to free agency, absolutely.
Yeah, but do you go all in on a winger or do you wait until Matthews and try to go all in on him?
Well, cap's going up. See what happens.
That's true. That is true. Could end up with both of them.
I know that's
weird as that sounds.
It's a crazy thing to even assume. What is it possible? I don't know. But you bring in a guy like Pasternak with the way this roster is building out. Is it great? No. He immediately makes your team better. And if you get a guy like if you bring him in next season, you have a guy like Vrana actually back into it. He hasn't been traded off or bought out. Now you've got two of the most prolific potential 5-on-5 goal scorers in hockey.
And would you imagine they're both Czechs?
Yep.
So, I don't know, man. There was also rumors flying around that said Pasternak would not re-sign with the Bruins if Sweeney was still the general manager. So
I do remember hearing that, and I think that's a bunch of bullshit, to be honest.
I don't know, man. Apparently, a lot of players hate Sweeney because he makes really fucking stupid moves, which was evident every step of the way.
All the more reason.
You know what's hilarious? You know what's hilarious though? All the ones he made this past off season worked out for him.
Sure, and if the Bruins win a cup, there's no fucking reason for Pasta to stay with the Bruins. So why? Like, I mean, it's possible, but at the end of the day, I think he extends there because I mean he's young enough, and they'll just say you could be a Bruin forever, and he'll be like, okay, and he'll just sign with the Bruins. It's what's going to happen because we're never allowed to have a really, really exciting offseason where there's like huge name free agents available. It just never happens.
They're selling pasta in the store with his face on it, and it's called Pasta's Pasta.
Of course it is, because it's the fucking stupidest thing ever.
And then Marchand has a cereal called Marsh's Munch. I saw it the other day.
Remember when Stevie had Stevie Stars?
What?
I've got a box of Stevie Stars somewhere in my basement.
That's amazing.
So, I mean, right now, Boston's going into next season with $21.8 million in projected cap. And that's with a $1 million bump to the salary.
And the guys that are free agents are their two top centers, Bergeron and Krejci, both of them.
And Bergeron could retire, and so could Krejci.
Bergeron, I mean, I could see him taking league vet minimum at this point because he already is down to 2.5 this year. Krejci, is he going to come back?
I don't know. He might go back home. One, he could retire
again.
And if you actually look at what he's done, he hasn't been phenomenal.
I think if they were to win the cup, and I mean that's a big if still. There's some holes on that team, and if they were, I mean, both of those guys are probably gone, right? You would think.
Oh yeah, they'd go out with a bang. If they win, they both have nothing left to play for.
Yeah, and same with Pasta.
Yeah, I agree.
don't know. Nick Foligno, you got to think they let him walk. Craig Smith, you can bring him back cheap. Nosek, same. You're gonna maybe have to start paying Trent Frederick a little bit more because he's making $1 million, but he's arbitration eligible, so you know that contract's going up. All their money right now is in their defense, which for them is great because a lot of their guys are under 30. But you're gonna see a huge bump, and that 21 million is going to shrink really quick in terms of their salary, what's available next season. So,
especially if they give Pasternak $11 million. Holy,
well, that's where you see a guy like Nick Foligno gone because he's making 3.8 right now. Craig Smith is making 3.1. You can't have Pasta sign that deal like he's eating up those two contracts right there.
I will say one thing: Pasta's, a charismatic kind of dude. And you know how Crosby got 8.7 or whatever. I could see Pasta getting an 8-year deal worth 11 million per. So it's 8 years, 88 million.
Absolutely. But I think as we're going to end it tonight, like I said, it's just we need more of the mid-tier guys to bump up to top tier in order to make a playoff push. Just didn't happen this season.
We just need the guys in the bottom tier to go mid.
But luckily, Elmer Soderblom has been tearing it up in Grand Rapids. Simon Edvinsson has been really good these past couple games. I think he's got, 3 points in 2 games or 2 goals in 3 games. He's been very good. And Vrana seems like he's getting back on track. And that's the big one that I want to happen so badly, is that our post-trade deadline major acquisition could be a healthy and productive Vrana, which would be fantastic for our offense. But I want to get your guys' final thoughts before we sign off. I'm going to start with Tyler.
All right. Yeah. My final thoughts are, I mean, we talked about a lot of this and, this team obviously is kind of teetering whether they're going to be a playoff team or not, or whether they're even going to be in the mix in the playoffs or not. But it just feels like if they could score some more goals, man, they would have chances to win a lot of these games. Like, they just don't score enough goals. They don't generate enough scoring opportunities. And when they do get the opportunities, they don't bury them. So that's just my main concern about the team. I'd like to see Vrana come back at some point here. I don't know if that's something that is possible or I mean, I know it's possible, but I don't know if it's something that, they've discussed or what's going to happen here. I guess if Bertuzzi were to get dealt, then you can just call Vrana up or if one of the forwards, but I don't know. My final thoughts are just enjoy the rest of the season. There's still a decent amount of time left. Enjoy the All-Star break. Enjoy the skills competition, which should be fun. I know the game itself kind of blows, which we've kind of discussed, but I mean, whatever. It is what it is. They're just dicking around and they're trying to make $1 million, right? Isn't that what the prize is? $1 million or something. So whatever. I don't know. What are you supposed to do? It's an all-star game. Pretty much all of these all-star games nowadays are losing lust anyways. You saw the Pro Bowl is now a reimagined flag football game. So, I mean, I don't know. But you can follow me on Twitter.
Last of Us on HBO.
There you go. You can follow me on Twitter at SealDog91.
So for me, it's enjoy this time off over the next week. Because it's going to come back and it might hurt a little bit. I mean, first game back is Edmonton. We have a Canadian home and away series, more or less. We have 3 games home starting on February 7th. You got Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver. You would like to think that each of those games are winnable, but you never know. Because then they go on the road. They got at Vancouver, at Edmonton, at Calgary. They have their West Coast trip, and they close it on the East Coast. From really the remainder of the season, I can't remember what it was, but the Wings have one of the most difficult second halves out of any team, or it is the worst.
The most difficult
remaining schedule of anyone in the NHL. It's going to be a hell of an uphill battle. And as we just talked about, if several of those guys in our low tier, arguably, do not step it up into that middle tier, it's going to be painful. They just had consecutive losing months in terms of their record. And that's why we see ourselves now on the outside looking in for that wild card spot. Is that the reality of where the situation should have been for this season? Probably. Is it where they should really be based on how the season has gone? No. You could argue that they should be right there at that wild card point. Now I get it. It's what, 5 points that we're looking at right now? 57 points. 7 points out of the wild card behind Pittsburgh. They got games in hand. They got things that could potentially go in their favor. They need to elevate that game. Hopefully this week off, that means we're going to see Zadina back at the end of this All-Star break. Maybe he comes back and finally finds something, because I tell you what, if he doesn't, he's gone. And my leash to him is very short. But Bert, of all the guys that we've had out there that have returned from injury, Fabry's doing his part. You need Bertuzzi to show up and do something that we've seen the last several years when he's fully healthy. You can argue that he is fully healthy. He's looked better. It's the points haven't come. They need to, for this team to actually start to push and be more consistent. I feel like if that happens, then we might see an elevation of this team a little bit. If not, we're going to see more of the same, and that could be getting kind of frustrating over the next month going into the trade deadline. So we'll see. It's kind of a meh year to this point. Can't be mad, can't be too excited, but they're competing. So we'll see what happens after the All-Star break. Other than that, already around 33.
Yeah, my final thoughts are going to be next week. We have YouTube creator Lego Rocks 99 coming on to talk hockey. He'll be interesting to talk to since, Bo Horvat just got traded, and we'll see his thoughts on the trade because he is also a Canucks fan. So he will be joining us on the show to talk Red Wings hockey. But you can follow me online at Bringing the Wing. Follow the Grindline Podcast online at Grindline Pod. We'll give a shout out to the Hockey Podcast Network for hosting us and spreading us around. We also give a shout out to Vintage Detroit, which is the only place you should get your Detroit jerseys from and worked on. If you use promo code GRINDLINE at howieshockeytape.com, you get 10% off your order. If you use that same promo code at Bring Hockey Back, you get 12% off your order. You can check out our merch at redbubble.com by searching The Grind Line, and we would love for you to go over to our YouTube channel and subscribe there and turn on those notifications for whenever new videos go live, because I assume things will start picking up and not when we record, so there will be videos in between our episodes to break things down, especially with Yzerman being a wizard and doing things at 2 a.m. So that's going to do it for us tonight. So for Ryan and Tyler, I am Greg. You stay classy, Hockey Town.